So in our previous session, we have seen what are the basic concepts of DBMS and why we need to go for databases. And I have introduced the SQL Server. That is, SQL Server is one of the DBMS, and we have seen SQL Server Management Studio, how to create a database and all other basic things like what is the data field record, and we have seen module 1 and module 2. And so in today's session we will see the SQL basics, that is introduction to SQL. Let's see where this SQL sits in this database world. So basically, we know that DBMS, Database Management System, is a software, and we need to install, and we can access from the client systems. So these client systems, either it can be from application or from client SQL Server Management Studio or any APIs, should communicate to this DBMS. So SQL is nothing but a structured query language that is used to communicate to the database. That is as simple as that. As it says, the language, any language is used for communication. The SQL is a language to communicate to the database. This is the definition of your SQL. So when you say it's a language, then SQL consists of three kinds of commands. Basically, they categorize the SQL statements or some kind of querying into three main categories. There are other categories to kickstart your SQL knowledge. I think this is fair enough. So, what are the different types of statements? We have DDL, DQL, and DML statements. So, what this will do? Assume the data definition language, which is nothing but use it to create the structure of the objects. When I say objects, it can be a table, it can be a view, it can be a stored procedure functions. Those are considered as objects that are used to create the structure and modify the structure. That is your alter. Once you created a table, you want to include or exclude some columns. In that case, you need to go for alter. You want to remove the table or drop the table from the database. Then you need to use drop. So these are the different commands truncate used to clear the records. Commands used to define the structure of the object. That is why it is called DDL statements. And then DQL, once you created, this should come second, like data manipulation language. So as soon as you create the objects, the data is not available. You need to insert the records into the created object, or you need to add some content. Okay, then you have to go for insert a record, I mean insert a data into your tables. That is what your data manipulation language. What are other operations you can do? Once you inserted, you find like you some data to be modified, then you go for update. Some data to be deleted, then delete statement to be used. I will explain it with some examples. What are the different statements you can use? Once you inserted, everything is done, and you want to see the data, that is your querying. So most of the part you have to be familiar with select. So it is not a single statement. There are a lot of other options in data querying, like grouping, where condition, everything will come here. But basically everything comes under a single statement called select. So these are fundamentals of your SQL: data definition, data manipulation language, data query language. Let us see by creating one table. Then I just want to explain the some other concept called data types. Then we will go through all these statements one by one. So the first statement, I'm going to create the structure. Okay, I'm going to instruct what this statement I'm explaining. So what I'm saying here is I'm instructing the database management system from my client. That is, this my management studio is my client. From the client system, I am instructing the DBMS create the table. So it has to understand, right? This is the syntax. Okay, the any language has some syntax, programming language I mean. So this is the syntax to create your table, which says like create table and your name. You can give any name. They have certain rules to give a name. You cannot have a space here, so some rules are there. Okay, so you need to follow those rules, and you need to provide the column name followed by the data type. Then this is the constraint, whether it's a null, not null, all those things I will cover it later in later modules. So to understand it, this is the syntax: create table name followed by column name and data type. This is the second column name and its data type. This is the third column name and its data type. Okay, so once you do this, okay, now you can see already have this table. So let me drop this table, delete it. So I do not have this table right now. Okay, the customer. So when I say execute, select the statement and click on execute. Let me connect it. Command completed successfully. So now you can go here in your database SQL training Corona and refresh it. So as soon as you do that, okay, sorry, see, there is a issue here. I didn't create it in the SQL training Corona database. So you need to choose it. First you choose this database and execute it. That is created in the master. We need to delete it. I can drop it later. Now I created in this database. Instead of this, okay, you can use some class like use. If I want to create this table in Naga store, okay, okay, when I use this one, it will automatically change it to Naga store. So first statement you need to use, that is use the database name. That is the best practice. Let me change it to SQL training Corona. Here also SQL training Corona. Let us keep like that. So by mistake it will not you will not create in a wrong database. So this is fine. Now once you see and refresh it, you can see the table created. And as soon as you create it, okay, there won't be any data available. You see what are the things it has created. You mentioned only this. Now you can see what are the columns available are created in this table. Then is there any constraints, triggers or keys you have created? All those things will automatically fall under this table. So let us stop this, I mean break for some time for creating this table or DDL and DML statements. What are different SQL statements? I want to cover the important topic like this integer and varchar, or what is this data type is all about. So I quickly try to insert one record. So this is how you need to insert a record, and I can see the record here. Select star from the customer. Okay, now you see here you have your customer ID, customer name, customer address, right? So in this you have something like integer and varchar. What are these? These are nothing but your data types which defines what data this column should hold. whether this column customer ID is an integer or text columns or any other binary or numerical column. So those kind of what is the type of data you are going to store, that is your data type. That is what you need to mention it here. So what are different types of data types available? Let us see it here. I hope it is very small. Let me put it in big screen. So now you see like basically most of the time exact number numeric you see here. The first preference is like here the big int, integer, numeric, small int, all these things are used to store the numerical values. There is a limit for each and every data type. I have given the link over here. I will share it in the description so you can watch that one. So each data type has the limit. If you want to store big numbers, okay, it's more than trillion or some big numbers, you cannot store it in integer. And if it is something between 0 to 128 numbers, you can use the small int instead of using the integer. So based on your type of data as well as the volume, how much data it is going to store, the limit, okay, minimum and maximum limit, you can choose appropriate data types. So if it is like strings, that is text, there are three varieties. I mean, three types: character, text, varchar, and varchar is a new data type that needs to be added. Then last is, I mean, there are other kind of data. Like you have date time here. If your column going to store the date related data, then you can use date time to small date time or time. So based on what kind of data you're going to store. So each what is the difference between date time and date time 2? We can check it later. I mean basically this will have only the date, this will have a date time, and this will have date time with some UTC kind of thing. So based on your business scenario also, you need to choose appropriate data types for the columns. So mostly we will use integer and varchar and date time. And there are certain things like you have boolean values, right? Whether it is true or false, you have kind of binary 0 and 1s. So those things you can show it as a binary. Then you have it's not a binary, I think. This is for var binary, and image is for big numbers, right? I mean, you can store an image in this data type. If I mean, SQL Server can store the images in a column. So image, how images will be stored using this data type. When you store it in var binary, you can retrieve it, okay. That is what. So there are some special data types also there: XML, spatial geography types. So these are some special character, I mean, data types that you can use. Here you see the character string varchar, and you see the Unicode character string n varchar. So what that differs from char and n char? N stands for Unicode, and which is basically nothing but Unicode characters are multilingual. Like these will store only the ASCII characters or only alphabetical characters in only English language, you can say. And whereas the Unicode characters will support the other languages like Chinese language or Arabic language values if you want to store. So the purpose of these data types is to enforce certain rule. Like if you define a type of a column like a date of birth as integer, and you cannot store the your date of birth in that field. So it's type of some kind of checks you are doing, and to enforce, because Another main important aspect of having proper data type is like uh, certain functions you will call to say, for example, you want to get the first four characters of a string. Okay, then some string functions will work only based on this data type whatever you define. So these are the main purpose you need to define a proper data type. So another example I can give is like you want to add 5 days from or subtract 5 days from the current date. I mean to say from the date in that column. Then in that case you have to use the date add function that takes the one of the parameter as date column, date field, date data type. So if you are not defining your column properly, then some of the functions won't work. So with this note, I explained the purpose of data types, how important it is to make your database proper design. Moving on to the SQL statements. Once again, let me start creating it. So this is the create table that we have already created and added one record into it. So now we have defined integer in varchar and varchar. So I have mentioned both here in varchar and varchar. So now if we insert some other characters other than English characters or ASCII characters, this will not support. Whereas this nchar will support your Chinese characters or your Arabic or other than English language. That is where Unicode stands for. There are mainly other difference as well, but understanding I am mentioning it to you. There are some storage reasons as well. I mean, there is storage wise, it is optimal. That is Unicode character. For to begin with, just try to understand there is two difference. I mean, difference between varchar and varchar. So I have inserted a record. I want to insert a few more records. That is two records here. Okay, to Shakti Bangalore, and let us try to query it. Okay, now you can see here customer ID, customer name, customer address, everything was there. And then what happens when I try to change, you know, what's happening? I will try to insert it in a improper order. Like I mentioned customer ID here, which is an integer column, but I am trying to insert a character value here, and this is the character. Okay, I mean that is string, and this is again a string. Okay, what happens if I do like this? Yes, it throwed a error. Conversion failed when converting a varchar value Abdullah to data type integer. It is trying to convert this value to integer because customer ID, whatever you defined here is integer, right? So you cannot insert character value in an integer field. So it's a kind of one check that it is imposing. These kind of checks that you cannot impose in a file system, right? If you in Excel, if you are having one value 1 2 3, then again you cannot impose much. Okay, that is what the people can start typing the name or whatever they want. So I'm not saying only in Excel, the file systems they maintain notepad or other files. So this is one of the disadvantages in file system that will be overcome by database. This is a classic example why we need to go for databases as well. So the next statement is like in the DDL is to alter. Now you see here we have two records. Let me insert the third record now by replacing it with the proper order. Okay. Yes. So I'm inserting the third record. There you go. Let us see this. So 1, 2, 3, John, London, Shakshi, and Abdullah. And now, after I inserted, now I want to add a new column called a phone number and a gender. Okay. So how to do that? It is like altering the structure of the table, that is object. The customer table is object. You are trying to alter the structure, correct? So for that you need to use alter table, the table name, that object name, then add the column, whatever the new column you are specifying, then the data type. Okay, so this is the way to alter your structure of the object. For that, just execute this. Now you go and see. So whatever changes you do, in order to see the result, you need to use select star from customer, that is your DQL. Now as soon as you add it, we didn't say anything about the data. We are just adding a new column to this table. That is what this alter table will do. Similarly, I want to add another column called gender, which is character 1. Let me query it. Now there are two blank columns. Fine. Let us keep these two later. Okay. Drop and truncate. Let me go to another important DML statement. Now we have seen create and alter. Then we have inserted the record using the insert statement. Now I want to alter the structure, means you go for alter. I want to modify the data, means you need to go for update. Update is for modifying the data. Okay, so the another important statement here is update customer set m. So what will be the result of this query is like, irrespective of your gender, you are not seeing anything over here, just update m for all the rows. Okay, that is what it is saying. Let us try to update it. Let us keep it like this, then you see the result. Now once again you see here 1, 2, 3, everyone got the gender as m. Let us have it like that. Then what happens, I want to update the phone number. Let us keep the phone number as null. As such, we will do it later. Now you understand the concept of update. If you want to modify the record, then you need to use the update statement. I'm not modifying the existing record, I'm just modifying the existing column value. There is no value, I have added new value here. Okay, so if you want to change for this particular London, I will do it later by using a where condition. We need to do it. Before that, so I want to show you the last DML statement here, delete. So when I want to clear this record, okay, yeah, everything I want to clear it, what I need to do? You need to use a delete from customer. That's it. Now you go and select this table. Now there is no record. Okay, so these are different statements you need to understand to work in your databases. Okay, so first, to begin with, create, then you need to alter, it, then you need to insert the record, you need to use insert statement. If any record or data to be updated, you need to use update. Then removing a record from your table, you need to go for delete. This is the core key concepts. Then what about these two, truncate table and your delete table? So these are one of the important interview questions. Let me put the data once again into this table so that you will understand. So now you have three more records again, as I deleted the record. Now I do not enter the gender now, so again it will be blank. Now what is this truncate table is doing? It will also clear all the records from your table, but some indexes, if the table contains, that will also to be resetted. Okay, the identity column will also be resetted. There is some few difference between delete and truncate, where delete, the key difference between delete and truncate, one of the important differences in delete statement, you can use a where condition. What is a where condition? To view the records, you are using a select star from condition customer, right? I want to see only this customer ID too. For that, in order to filter it, you use a var customer ID, customer and ID equal to 2. So I want to see only the customer ID too. So let me hold on a minute. There is no underscore. It's only customer ID. So I can see only the customer ID too. When you use select star from table name, it will display all the records in your table. I want to specify or filter out certain records, then you can use a where condition, where customer ID equal to 2 will give me only this record. So similarly, in order to delete only customer 2, I can use a where condition here, where customer ID equal to 2. So this will delete only Sakshi. Now you can see in your customer table, you will have only the 2 records over here. This is the key difference. But whereas the truncate, there is no where condition. Whatever records you have, even it contains 1 million records, it will clear it very fast. That is the main difference between delete and truncate. Now there won't be any data in your customer table, and there are some key differences as well. And what is the drop table will do? So drop table is nothing but will remove this, will delete the table itself. See, delete is deleting the data. Okay, what drop will do is drop will delete the table from the database. There won't be any table anymore. Okay, drop table name. Now if you see customer here, when I go to click on tables and refresh, customer table is gone. There is no more. Now even you query it, it won't be available. Invalid object name, the object itself dropped. That is what your drop will do. I hope it was clear, like what is SQL, what are different SQL statements to manipulate, and what is its purpose as well. Let me walk you through certain other examples as I mentioned before. Like we have seen, if insert wrong values like Abdullah and in 3 and 4, then I mean to say in the customer ID is an integer, where I need to insert an integer. And what happens if I'm not mentioning the column order like this? Will it insert? Yes, it will. Actually, the column order, if you are not mentioning the column, however you have created it, you see here the this order you have created it, that in that order this will get insert into. Now I am saying Naga, and I am in say for example Dubai. Let me insert now. Okay, let us select this, select star from customer. Okay, now I didn't mention any order, but still I can insert a value. And what happens by mistake, user inserts a data like this, Dubai, and he says he's Mr. Kumar, or Kumar is not here. Fine. What happens now? Let us see. Okay, so now I have mentioned, I will just move it a little up. Okay, now you see here, this is a statement I have executed. Insert customer Phi and Dubai. Now what happened here? So the customer address is Dubai but inserted in the customer name column, whereas the customer name Kumar is inserted in the customer address column. This is because the order you are not mentioned here. Okay, you see here in one of the example, customer ID, customer name, address, and this order should be the same. And in order to do a proper insertion of into particular column like this, okay, you can mention the values in different order, but what you need to do is you need to mention it in this insert statement as well. As we do not mentioned it in this example, it is inserted in the created column as well. In this order it has inserted. Now in order to work this one, I'm again inserting this record, but what I'm doing it here, customer address, customer name. So insert into customer, customer ID, customer address, and customer name. Earlier we used to give customer name and customer address. So this is the proper order. Now in order to give different order, because once you create a table, you don't know which order you have given. So you just pick up the column names here, and based on the column names provided in the insert statement columns, you can mention the values. So now once you insert the same record, let me put it for 6. Okay, again I am putting for Kumar. So what happened now? Yes, so now even though I mentioned like 6 Dubai and Kumar, the Dubai value is inserted into customer address properly, you see, for 6, right? So this is how the some of the basic things you want to understand, and syntactically this is a syntax and you need to follow it. And how about your one of the update statement I mentioned, like select star from where condition we have seen. Similarly, even in update statement, we can use a where condition. Now let me add gender. Again you will see, always once you do some statement changes, you just try to select start from, I mean select the data and see. Once you do this one, what happens is like it will update m for every individual. I hope for Sakshi we need to update it as female, right? So what the one of the simple thing I can do is where I will say customer ID. Okay, customer ID equal to 2. I want it as F. Okay, I want to put it as F, female. For other than female, now once you do the update, go and select it. Always select star from customer. So your life as a database developer will be in select star from table only. Now you can see like for only for Sakshi I want to update. So where condition is basically restrict your data rows to filter it and update or select wherever it is possible you want to apply it. To filter a rows you want to use where condition. Now for other than 2, everyone is male, so in that case I need to go for not equal to 2, make it as F. Let us have this one as such. Let me copy and put it here, male. and I will say not equal to 2. So this condition will evaluate for each row. Okay, and say for example this is 2, so it will check for customer ID 1 equal to 2, no, 2 equal to 2, true, then update this particular gender column, and 3 it will say false. So like that it will execute whatever rows having a true value. For that it will execute this set statement. That is the syntax for update. Now other than 2, every row will become true for this. Let us see. So it says 5 rows affected. Now let us see. So this is how you can update a newly inserted column. For different combination, you need to use different conditions. So this is one of the important aspect of your the I mean what you call SQL statements. So there are two things I've covered it today. One is about data types, how it is crucial, and whether it's an integer in varchar. You cannot insert a numerical value into an integer, and the different SQL statements. And we will see another important concept here in the SQL the table. It's like you can see here a null or not null. Oh, what it is. Let me quickly show it to you. Okay. Now I'm saying I'm adding another column here like phone number. Okay, and which I'm defining it as let me add one more table, create table, gender, and what you have like um in where care of, or it's again it's a care of one, and I will say it as not null. Okay, put it comma, customer not null, just for understanding I'm putting it here. Now you see select star from. I'm trying to explain how what are the different things you have it in your table creation step. That is core important. Select star from customer table not null is null. Now I want to take insert table script, and this is a customer table not null. Let me put it here. Now this I defined as not null. Okay, what happens if I'm not putting this value at all? That is, I'm putting a customer address as null. Okay, even I can ignore it. Let me show it to you what I'm trying to say. Here first I'll put gender. I'm trying to insert the value over here. What was it? It was wherever, whatever, Chennai, and I will put him as male. Okay, this is fine. Now one John, Chennai, and male. Okay. Now what this is saying is like this one null or not null. This column should have a value. Not null means this column does not allow nulls. This always should have some value. That is what it is saying. So some columns are optional, meaning like this maybe some customer can give the address or not. That is fine. But in your case, like phone numbers and genders, maybe it's like a dressing company. I mean, the retail company, who they want to understand the customer base, whether they are female customers or gents customer. They want to record it. Then they will make that as not null. They want to understand, make that as a mandatory field. In that case, it is compulsory. So now you can skip the second value. What I'm trying to say is, let us copy this once again. I'm not providing this customer address now. Okay, in that case, instead of address, I'm not giving any value over there. What happens? Let him be 2 and he is Kumar, he is a male. Let me insert it. What happened now? Now the customer address is blank, that is null. This is allowed. So this particular null is a constraint that says this column will allow null. There can be a value or you can skip it. Whereas if I'm not giving a value for the gender column, okay, now I'm saying customer, I will give customer address. Now I'm not going to give any value to the gender. Instead I will give only Chennai. Okay, what happened to this statement? You understand this two difference, statement difference. Now the error says cannot insert a value null into a column gender because of this constraint. Column does not allow nulls. How this error comes is because of this single constraint. Okay, so you are defining some, imposing the rules. As I said before, these kind of rules are data in integrity you cannot impose in the file system. That is why you are going for this database management system. Now you understand this point. Now this record is not at all inserted, that is 2 Kumar Chennai is not inserted. You can see this one, to Kumar blank, that is this statement is executed, to Kumar blank and mail is executed, but whatever you mention only Chennai, to Kumar Chennai is not executed because you are not giving the gender. In order to insert to Kumar Chennai with he, maybe again I will insert just as a duplicate, that's fine. I have to put this column here. So you need to correlate this to any business scenario, as I mentioned before. So these are the some of the constraints: null, not null, unique, check. So I will cover more on to next session. We will stop it today. Okay. I hope I covered two of the topics. One is about introduction to data types and DDL DML topics. Then constraints I will take it on next session.